I call the member for Newcastle.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In this place, we often talk about reforms and debate legislation that's designed to keep people safe, including measures targeted at sexual violence and domestic and family violence. These have been about consent, coercive control, court processes, just to name a few. But an issue that hasn't received much airtime in this place has been the very serious issue of drink spiking. It's something that absolutely needs to be spoken about, and it's an issue that is of a concern to so many people. I know that because that's why we are here today. Over 20,000 people signed a petition to this place, coordinated by Newcastle-based advocacy organisation, What Were You Wearing?, calling for measures to raise awareness, increase prevention measures and better support people who may have had their drinks spiked. What Were You Wearing? Have put an exceptional amount of work together to see the petition come to this place, and I would like to acknowledge all the volunteers that have travelled to Parliament today and are in the chamber here to watch the debate. You have given so much of your time and energy to supporting people who've experienced sexual violence or domestic or family violence and campaigning so strongly to see it completely end. You have achieved an extraordinary amount in just a couple of years. Well done. This may be the first time many people in this place have come across this group here today, but I assure you it will not be the last you hear of them. In fact, the founder and Newcastle Local Woman of the Year, Sarah Williams, is with us today. And it would not surprise me at all if one day she's standing exactly where I am here today. Drink spiking is when a person deliberately adds another substance to a drink without the knowledge of the person who will be drinking it. And it's a pretty scary thought. It often makes a person who's been spiked extremely unwell. There could be vomiting, loss of consciousness, loss of memory. Terrifyingly, it can also be a method employed by perpetrators of sexual violence to impair their victims to a point in which they cannot resist or remember an assault. This loss of memory can result in fewer reports and therefore fewer investigations and fewer convictions. We know that drink spiking and sexual assault is underreported. That makes it even more concerning that according to crime data, drink spiking is growing in prevalence across all corners of this state, with more than double pre-COVID numbers. In fact, in 2022, there were 24 reports of drink spiking in Newcastle local government area alone, which was 10 more than the previous year, and gave Newcastle the second highest number in the state. This is unacceptable. How do we call our state a safe place when these reports are growing in frequency? When you go out to a bar, a club, a nightclub, you're expecting to have a good time. You might be celebrating a birthday, maybe some live music, or maybe you've just got the night off and want to have a bit of fun. What you don't expect is to have your drink spiked, your night ruined, and your body compromised. Keeping people safe is not a job for one individual, which is acknowledged in this petition. We need to make sure that the venue and security staff know what to do when spiking is reported and are actually trained to respond. That includes taking every report seriously, seeking any required medical assistance, and ensuring the ongoing comfort and safety of anyone who's been affected by a spiking incident. We also need to have the education on spiking there for people who are going out, so they know what they can do to reduce the risk of drink spiking and how to look out for their mates. This is the exact thing that What You Were Wearing are doing. They're looking out for every person who wants to go to a venue, have a good night and get home safe and sound. I'm very proud to be standing here supporting them, and I'm looking forward to soon being able to provide them with more assistance with this. And in another fantastic initiative which sees them provide safe spaces and trauma-informed staff at patrons at music festivals. I expect every person in this House will get behind this petition and what you are wearing, as all stakeholders work together to prevent drink spiking and sexual assault.
I call the member for North Shore.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And firstly, I'd like to thank the member for Newcastle for bringing this petition to the attention of the House. It's a subject that we should all be taking an interest in, and it's important that we have the opportunity to discuss it here today. So thank you very much to the member for Newcastle. I'd also like to acknowledge the Minister for the Prevention of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault who's joining us here today. We all in this House want to support the work that she is doing across the Parliament and across the state. I also want to commend the 20,000 plus petitioners who signed this petition. It clearly indicates that there is a significant concern about this issue across our community, and particularly in the Newcastle community. As iterated in the petition, the increased incidence of drink spiking, which often, sadly, leads to sexual assault, is reflected in the 2022 Boscard data, which has shown that drinking spiking in New South Wales was at its highest level in 5 years, with reported cases growing steadily each year, despite the disruptions of the COVID-19 lockdowns. I want to particularly acknowledge the Australian founder of What Were You Wearing, Sarah Williams, who's here with us today, for her strong and tireless advocacy on this issue. And I want to commend her for the work that she's done and continues to do to shine a light on drink spiking. It's incredibly difficult to speak out on issues relating to sexual abuse, about your own experiences and the impact they've had on you. But despite these challenges, Sarah has spoken out. She continues to speak out, and as she has said in the past, to see not just only justice for herself, but for everyone else. Sarah said that, and I quote, "I wanted to speak out about and show people that even if you don't speak for yourself, if you want to report anonymously to our website, you can still have your voice," end quote. Sarah, thank you for what you have done. Thank you for taking a stand against sexual assault and domestic violence, and thank you for being such a champion supporting others across Newcastle, across this state and across Australia. And I'd like to note that the member for Port Macquarie, who wanted to participate in today's petition and instead asked me if I could speak, I know that she has met with Sarah in the past and unfortunately couldn't speak today because she's lost her voice. I'm not speaking for her, but I know that I'm speaking with her will and her sentiment and her support for you, and I know that if she could utter the words, she would be saying wonderful things in recognition of you, Sarah, and the things that you have achieved and will continue to achieve. And she did tell me that she had spoken with Sarah during the week, and Sarah shared with her insights on how we can tackle this issue, particularly by including in the responsible service of alcohol training topics around drink spiking, around sexual prevention, violence prevention training. In our understanding, in New South Wales, the RSA course handbook, it does include a section regarding drink spiking, but the petitioners were aware of the view that it fails to adequately cover the signs and symptoms of spiking or the steps to take to address a suspected case. I myself have had friends, colleagues, young women that I know and I care about that have found themselves experiencing drink spiking. Sometimes it's not until a day later or many hours after it's occurred. Sometimes they're only discovered because they've got vigilant friends at a licensed premise with them that have found them in a bathroom or found them at the bar disoriented and have stepped in to protect them. And no woman, no man, but particularly women in this circumstance should ever find themselves in that position where they have to ensure that somebody is vigilant enough to look out for them. It's an incredible abuse of their liberty, of their body autonomy and their safety, and we want to make sure that we prevent it. We also note that petitioners also propose spiking prevention kits, educational resources and posters in venues that will assist with patron safety awareness. I believe that these are all worthy strategies, and the member for Port Macquarie is in support as well, that we should be considered in tackling drink spiking. And in fact, we've seen previously that similar campaigns such as Ask for Angela have had a positive impact. The member for Port Macquarie wanted me to reflect on the rollout in dozens of licensed venues in her own electorate of the Ask for Angela campaign in 2018. And that was a collaboration between the Hastings Liquor Accord, the Australian Hotels Association and the Mid-North Coast Police District. We know that it's an internationally recognised initiative, and it encouraged patrons to ask for help if they were getting unwanted attention or felt their safety was at risk. It was a really modern approach to a modern issue, and by asking for Angela, you had the safety of very subtly alerting staff who could be part of that support to intervene call police, organise safe transport, or refer the patron to a support service. So having those posters out in venues makes a real difference. And I know that this petition in and of itself is helping us continue the conversation about how to ensure we have safe venues, safe nights out, and safe environments for everybody, particularly women that are considerably vulnerable to drink spiking across our community. So thank you very much, Sarah.
I call the member for Charlestown.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I thank the member for Newcastle for bringing this petition to the House and for his support and for his advocacy that people, and particularly women and young women, should remain safe. I also want to acknowledge the strong advocacy that what we're wearing, particularly the commitment of Sarah Williams, has brought to this issue in raising the awareness of drink spiking and providing the work that they've already done in providing educational resources and, really importantly, giving victims of sexual assault a voice. I note the petition from What Were You Wearing that has been tabled today has reached 20,000 signatures, and that's no mean feat. Sarah and her team have put in many, many long hours, including attending festivals, getting signatures on nights out, and running a social media campaign. Today, What We Are Wearing also held a powerful art exhibition at the front of Parliament House, showcasing outfits worn by sexual assault survivors at the time of their attack. I've attended that exhibition on a couple of occasions in the past, and once I actually attended with the Minister for Police, the member for Swansea. And it's an incredibly impactful and disturbing exhibition. Madam Deputy Speaker, there has been a shocking increase in reported incidents of drink spiking, and indeed we've seen a rise of almost 50% compared to pre-pandemic levels. In the year to June 2022, the New South Wales Police received 186 reports of drink or food spiking compared to 115 in 2019 and 119 in 2018. That is 71 more people who've gone for a night out only to have their drinks or their food spiked. And the most concerning thing, though, is that we know that less than 1/6 of suspected drink spiking sexual assaults are believed to be reported to police. And we know that while drink spiking does happen to men as well, 87% of drink spiking victims are women. As the Minister for Prevention of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault and the Minister for Women, this topic is close to my heart. No woman should have to fear their drinks or their food being spiked when they go out just to have a good time. No woman should have to fear assault or sexual assault just because they have said no, only to have their drink spiked and then being assaulted. This is what happened to Demi, who was at a nightclub in Newcastle when she was approached by a group of 5 men who surrounded her and pressured her into consuming drinks. When the venue closed, they tried to get Demi to leave with them, including by using force. By then, she was beginning to experience sedative symptoms. Luckily for Demi, her friends intervened, causing the men to leave. But Demi continued to feel unwell and she faded in and out of consciousness, and hospital staff later confirmed that her drinks had indeed been spiked. And the disturbing thing was that it was reported that the venue and security staff were not able to help Demi and did not take a report of the incident. And this was the second time that Demi's drinks were spiked at that venue. That incident was the genesis of the current petition before the House seeking mandatory drink spiking and sexual violence prevention for all security and bar staff at nightclubs, including drink spiking prevention kits, educational resources and posters in venues to promote patron safety and awareness. The New South Wales Labor government takes the issue of drink spiking seriously, and I'm sure that everybody in this place does. And we condemn violence against women. Drink spiking is a criminal offence under the Crimes Act, and penalties include fines and up to 2 years imprisonment. Now, I want to commend the Minister for Gaming and Racing, who is taking swift action to tackle this issue, and I know that he'll speak later. but action including updating the drink spiking content in RSA training handbooks, exploring options to further promote the Think Safe to Drink Safe campaign, adding drink spiking guidance to liquor guidelines documents, and reviewing the possibility of reinvigorating the Ask for Angela campaign that the previous speaker spoke on. I'd like to finish by thanking Sarah and all those who share their stories with what were you wearing. Drink spiking is an issue that needs more awareness and attention, and this is exactly what you have done. I commend the motion.
Before I call the member for Tamworth, just letting you, the members in the gallery know we have 2 more speakers, then we have a minister in reply, then we have the mover in reply. So I want to ensure that members of the crossbench get a chance too. So I'll call the member for Tamworth, then I'll call the member for Newtown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I rise in support of the member for Newcastle and the petition in terms of keeping people safe. And thank you for bringing this to the attention of the Parliament. Also, thank you to those who signed the petition and the movement What Were You Wearing, which I think is very, very important. It is about education and it is about awareness. And as the former Minister for Liquor, Gaming and Racing, we took a very serious view in relation to this particular issue and initiated the Think Safe, Drink Safe campaign. And I know the current member for the Minister for Gaming and Racing takes this very, very seriously as well. Part of the campaign was that education and awareness, and the most effective way to reduce the chances of your drink being spiked is to keep an eye on what you drink and never accept drinks from people whom you don't know well or trust. It's also about the RSA awareness and education campaign by Liquor and Gaming in terms of how do those in the hospitality industry look at keeping their patrons safe. And part of that is around that awareness. Being aware of unusual requests like odd combinations of alcohol or drinks that are not on the menu. Always measuring alcohol rather than free pouring to ensure alcohol is accurately measured. Don't serve patrons showing signs of intoxication. Monitor the people who are consistently ordering big rounds of drinks. Monitor the environment. If someone sees suspicious behaviour, let their manager know. Remove unattended glasses and check areas like bathrooms regularly. And if a person feels unsafe, they may seek out your assistance, like asking for Angela. And if you can, then the hospitality worker can discreetly take that person to a secure part of the venue and let their manager know, assess the situation and work out the best course of action. Also, trusting your instincts. If something feels wrong, then it most likely is. Drink spiking is a criminal offence. Section 38A of the Crimes Act contains an offence against drink spiking. It is against the law to give another person food or drink that contains an intoxicating substance that the other person is unaware of with the intention of causing harm. It carries a penalty of 2 years imprisonment and or a fine of $1,100. Now, that's the reason why we say report it. Call 000, call the police. The police have a Drink Safe campaign with drink covers and coasters to support and promote safe drinking at licensed venues across the state. The trial of drink coasters and single-use self-adhesive drink covers to New South Wales licensed venues, and that priority is to licensed venues in and around Sydney, and I would encourage them to expand that trial right across New South Wales. And the covers and the coasters depict an anti-drink spiking message. Madam Speaker, some of the warning signs, particularly for those when it comes to increased education and awareness of hospitality workers, if someone is feeling dizzy or faint, if they feel ill or sleepy, and if someone feels drunk, even if they've only consumed a small amount of alcohol, then they need to let someone in the venue know that something is not right, if they're incoherent or confused. So, Madam Speaker, it is about education and awareness. It's about keeping people safe. We all want to go out and have a great time in our pubs, clubs and our restaurants and our hospitality venues, and we want to do it in a safe way. That's why I commend Liquor and Gaming on the Think Safe, Drink Safe campaign looking out for your mates, looking out for each other, making sure that you don't accept drinks, always buy your own, and don't leave your drink unattended. There's lots of areas where we can be diligent and we can look after each other as we go out and enjoy the nightlife and the nighttime economy in whatever town we're in, whether it be Newcastle, or whether it be Sydney, or whether it be Tamworth. Let's think safe. Let's have that Drink Safe campaign, and let's make sure that we look after each other when we go out for a night on the town.
Speaker.
I call the member for Newtown.
Thank you, Speaker. On behalf of the Greens, I rise to speak on this petition to make drink spiking and sexual violence prevention training mandatory for security and bar staff in New South Wales. And I want to acknowledge the work of What Were You Wearing Australia, a Newcastle-grown community organisation who are dedicated to the eradication of sexual violence, and in response to a growing number of drink spiking incidences in their local community have taken this initiative to stand up and demand change. I also acknowledge the member for Newcastle for sponsoring this petition and say how wonderful it is, because it is no easy feat to be having a debate on a 20,000 strong petition, and to thank and congratulate the 20,181 people who signed this petition in support of these significant changes and reforms. I also want to acknowledge the 14,000 people who shared their stories and their situations of when they have experienced drink spiking. It's a massive achievement to have this debate, but what is more important is to hear the cross-party support across all elements of this chamber in recognising that this is something that we need to act together on to do more. Everyone deserves the ability to go out and have a drink and feel safe while doing so. But we know that drink spiking happens, and it happens on a huge scale, and that there are clear links between the people having their drink spiked and going on to the experience of sexual assault and violence. We also know that this is a gendered problem. We know that women are particularly at risk of this behaviour, and we need to remember that while it is important to deliver on all of these suggested reforms in this petition, that at the end of the day, what we do need to do is step up and stop the perpetrators, the people who believe that they are entitled to the idea of spiking somebody's drink and then having some kind of claim of ownership over them to do what they wish with them. The arrogance, the patriarchy, and the dominance of sexual behaviour in our society fuels a system and a culture in our communities that thinks that being able to spike someone's drink and then do whatever you choose to do with them is an accepted norm, and the sexism and the inequality that exists in our society enables that to fester and is something that we need to address. We also know that shamefully, all too often, victim survivors are not believed and that their experience is routinely dismissed. The scrutiny and vitriol that is levelled against them is shameful, and it's toxic, and it's relentless. We say this, and it's important to say this because it is critical to acknowledge that when people have their drinks spiked, too often they are not believed. Instead, they are routinely dismissed as having had too much to drink, being a bit too loose, a bit messy, kicked out of venues when they're in a vulnerable state. They're told that they're put in even more dangerous and extreme situations. This can further be then weaponised against them if they in turn experience sexual violence, and that has a lasting impact on them in terms of the trauma and harm to them, their communities, their friends and their families. To anyone who has had their drink spiked, and to all of the survivors of sexual assault and sexual violence, I say we see you, we hear you, and most importantly, we believe you. It is absolutely critical that our nightlife and our venues can be safer, that staff are properly trained and resourced to make this happen for people in those pubs and in those bars, and we recognise that when drink spiking has happened, that they know how to respond, and respond in a way that is going to be able to support the victims in those situations. Even better, we ideally prevent it from happening in the first place, and we take appropriate steps in our community and our society to stamp out sexual violence and sexual assault in general. But it also is important to recognise that responsibility for this cannot just sit with individual victims and survivors, and that is why the incredibly named What Were You Wearing Australia demonstrates the complete hypocrisy and irony of asking a woman, oh, did you cover up the drink? Were you watching it? Or did you leave it on the bar while you went to the bathroom? Didn't you ask someone to hold it or look at it for you? Oh, well, maybe ask the guy who just put that thing in that person's drink and was going to take them outside and assault them why they did that, rather than ask the person why they didn't keep holding their drink like this close to them all night with a coaster rested on it in case they go to the toilet. That is the question that needs to be asked, and too often it is the young women particularly who are asked to make answers to those questions instead of asking why on earth a male walking into a pub thinks he's entitled to drug a woman and then sexually assault them. That is the question we should be asking, and I think we need to continue to remind everybody that at the end of the day we should be focused on the perpetrators of that kind of aggression and violence rather than the idea of looking at how we can protect young women. We need to look at how we stop people from being such arrogant patriarchal men. I was proud to be part of the reform that delivered the absolute affirmative consent law reforms in New South Wales and offer the Greens ongoing support for the ongoing campaign that you are doing to end drink spiking, but also make sure that women, girls and everyone in our communities and bars are safe.
The member seeks leave to speak. Is leave granted? Leave's granted.
I think it's important to note on the record here and out in our communities, in our conversations, wherever we might be, whether it's out at night or, having a barbecue at home, chatting with friends, that drink spiking is a dangerous and increasingly common phenomenon in New South Wales, and that we are seeking to change that. Since the end of COVID lockdown, as has been stated in this place already, reports of drink spiking and associated assaults have been on the rise, and it's difficult to say whether those reports are due to increasing reporting or increased incidents. We know that something has to be done. The New South Wales-based organisation Full Stop highlights that it is estimated that there are 3,000 to 4,000 occurrences of drink spiking per year in Australia. However, it is grossly underreported. Data highlights that less than 1/6 of cases are reported to the police. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the fantastic people who have pulled together What Were You Wearing Australia, to all who were involved, to all of the petitioners who have introduced this fantastic initiative of awareness raising. You've aimed to collaborate with communities, with local nightclubs and venues to prevent drink spiking. The fact that you are calling for the implementation of mandatory drink spiking and sexual violence prevention training for security and bar staff at nightclubs, and that within that comprehensive training we look at identification, prevention and response to drink spiking incidents. Thank you. Thank you for bringing it to this place, and keep having those conversations out in the community with everyone that you know. It has been noted already that the dangers of spiking are extensive, and it's important for us to continue, not just here, but when we return to each of our electorates and we talk to our friends and our colleagues and our families, to look for the warning signs. Feeling dizzy, faint, ill, sleepy, even if you've only consumed a small amount of alcohol. I remember a young woman telling me that it's not just drugs in the alcohol, but a whole range of additives to drinks that have caused alarm. And I wanted to share, as have you all, encourage people to share personal stories, because those personal stories are very powerful. A young woman stopped me on the street not long after I was elected and wanted to tell me about how a group of her and her friends moved from a nightclub to someone's home to continue partying, and she had obviously consumed something that made her feel unwell. She came out of a room and wobbled her way down the stairs and was stopped in utter terror as she looked down the bottom of the stairs at a friend of hers who was catatonic and surrounded by a group of young men. And she said through her tears that to this day she still feels the guilt of not being able to move or scream or shout out on behalf of her friend. But she watched a situation unfold, and I think this is an important message for young people, that when you see something, when you hear something, when you suspect something, to speak out. And it's not just on the victims to do that, but those around them who care about change in legislation to speak out. A young man came out of the kitchen and saw this young woman there and said to the men who were discussing who was going to go her first, I don't think you're welcome here, and I don't think she can say yes, so get out. And they said, oh, you're going to fight all of us, are you? And this young man said, yeah, I will. And he said, is this your girlfriend? And he said, I don't know who it is, but she can't say yes. You've done something to her drinks, I know it, and you can get out. That young woman thanked me and said, you have raised good men. He was your son.
I call the Minister in reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the Honourable Tim Crakanthorp for bringing this important petition to the Parliament on behalf of Sarah Williams, head of What You Were Wearing Australia. I also acknowledge the really exceptional work you've done in this particular area. I met briefly with your group earlier today, and I'm grateful personally for their advocacy on this important issue of drink spiking. I have two daughters, as I explained to them, in their 20s. One will turn 21 this year and the other 23. They go out to venues in Newcastle, and as a parent, I must admit I do feel worry every time they go out, and I feel very relieved when they come home safely. But I think that's something that all parents would experience. As Minister for Gaming and Racing, I'm providing a response in regards to the actions underway to prevent and protect against drink spiking in licensed venues across New South Wales. The government is committed to delivering a better night out for all and to boost the state's reputation as a global nightlife destination, creating a thriving 24-hour economy across the state. This means ensuring that people, especially women and members of the LGBTIQ+ community, feel confident and safe in and around licensed venues. Drink spiking, as the former minister outlined, is a criminal offence, and enforcement is the responsibility of New South Wales Police. Liquor and Gaming New South Wales provide a supporting role through education and training for venue staff and licensees, and awareness campaigns for venue operators and patrons. In terms of education, Liquor and Gaming New South Wales is currently refreshing its responsible service of alcohol training content in relation to drink spiking and refreshing the information in the licensee training handbook. The government is also engaging with the United Workers Union, who represent bar and security staff at licensed venues. The government acknowledges their concerns that workers who raise incidents relating to drink spiking with their employers should be supported and protected by their workplace. In addition to training of staff, Liquor and Gaming New South Wales exploring options to further promote awareness campaigns such as the New South Wales Police Force's Think Safe to Drink Safe campaign, which was launched over the 2022-23 summer period in time for World Pride. Liquor and Gaming New South Wales will also review the Ask for Angela, they are angels, campaign that commenced in New South Wales in 2017, which aims to prevent sexual violence and improve safety for patrons. Liquor and Gaming New South Wales, with the Independent Liquor and Gaming Authority, also work with venues to create specific plans to address patron security and safety. Can I commend you again for the work that you're doing? We need to continue the conversation and talk about the further suggestions that you have. The government's more than happy to look at those and make sure we do make yourselves and our venues safe places to be.
I thank the Minister. I call the Minister and Mover in reply.
Thank you very much, Mr Acting Speaker. I want to thank all the speakers here today, the member for North Shore as a proxy and doing her own job as well. And I take my hat off you to Member for Port Macquarie for meeting with this wonderful organisation as well. The Minister for Women and Prevention of Domestic Violence and sharing Demi's incident. And as she said, we all do take drink spiking very seriously on this side of the House and the other side as well. The member for Tamworth, his contribution and suggestions on Drink Cover Coaster and a most worthy trial and the Think Safe, Drink Safe campaign. The member for Newtown highlighted 14,000 people who contributed their stories, which is very shocking and compelling, and she is right, there is cross-party support here today for that. The member for Blue Mountains, wow, that was a really compelling story you told about those young women and the bravery of your son. We know just how brave your sons are in the bushfire and the rescue there, and also standing up against horrible perpetrators of sexual violence is quite incredible as well. We had other members who came and met with this great organisation. The member for Granville came out the front, and our wonderful Minister for Police has been very vocal on this issue as well in the media and supporting the initiatives that we do have in addition. I mean, I know that everyone on this side are very supportive, and the Minister Harris, our Minister, I thank him. He's always very happy to talk about the issue, and I said, are you able to come and meet this wonderful organisation? He said, of course. Look, is there more to be done to prevent drink spiking, eliminate sexual violence? Definitely. We're going to continue working until we get there, and this is a very important part of that journey. Thank you.
I thank the Minister and Mover. The question is that this House take note of the petition. All of that opinion say aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The ayes have it. I congratulate the petitioners on this important issue, and I hope that you get a sense that there is broad support for this in this place. We will get it done.